Hello everyone, this is SodaFan2K10 here, welcoming you to the final of this current batch of Brio Toms of Friends discussions. And in this one we're going to be looking at obviously the most interesting of items that Brio made for the Toms of Friends range, being the figures. So this won't take too long hopefully, because there's not a whole lot to look at here, but we've been looking at all of the non-rail and rolling stock characters recently. And considering that these are the last of the non-rail characters I haven't yet covered, I thought for the interest of being thorough we'd go through it. Also, you know, I don't use these in my videos anymore, so this is about the last opportunity they'll have to appear in a video, apart from collection videos. So yeah, we're going to have a little talk about them. So, also, I don't have the any of the learning curve Thomas One Railway equivalents of any of these. So we're not going to be doing any sort of comparison with those, but I do have something else here that I'm going to be using to compare against, which I think will be an interesting thing to look at. It'll help me in a future topic, which we'll get into in just a moment. So let's go ahead and start off with the most famous of these characters, being Sir Topham Hatt, also known as the Fat Controller. So there he is in all his wooden glory. As a figure, he looks okay. You know, he's definitely got the correct outfit or whatever. I'm going to move him a little bit closer so that we can get a little look at his face. Let's see if that will focus at all for us. I'm not a huge fan of the face of this wooden figure, to be completely honest. It doesn't really look like the Fat Controller to me. It just looks very childlike. I can't get that to focus for whatever reason. Give me just 1 second. But yeah, it doesn't really look like the Fat Controller to me at all. It looks too childlike, if I'm being completely honest. It just doesn't have the right face, but everything else about him is pretty good. He's got the right outfit with his suit and his yellow waistcoat and his grey trousers and his all-important top hat. But even that doesn't look quite right to me personally, because it's a little bit squashed, a little bit flat. Turning him around, you can see there's no detail on these figures at all. You know, there's nothing on the side. They're literally just, you know, carved pieces of wood with a bit of print on them. But the back looks okay. That actually looks pretty good to me. I'm not a big fan of these figures, mainly because of their size or whatever, and we'll talk about that later. But the Brio ones in particular aren't that interesting, just because they're standing in just this basic, you know, wooden, no pun intended, pose. I know the learning curve equivalent of the Fat Controller, he's holding an umbrella, which is something at the very least. But yeah, not too amazing, nothing special. I do want to show that I do actually have a second figure of the Fat Controller, and I think that one of these figures, you can see that this one's a lot more faded, just because I think I used this one a lot more when I was younger. But I think this one came in a set, and then this one, you may have noticed at the beginning that, you know, 4 of these figures were together, there's one off to his side, and that's just because the Fat Controller and these 3 came as a set. So you could actually buy those as like an accessory pack. There's kind of like the Family of 4 figures from the 90s, came with 4 passengers. It's kind of a similar thing with that. You get 4, like an accessory pack of figures basically. But that's the Fat Controller. We'll go ahead and bring in Lady Hatt next. And Lady Hatt is a big improvement. I like her a lot more than the Fat Controller in terms of her wooden figure. So let's just get a quick look at her face. Looks okay. Looks pretty much like she does in Series 1 of Thomas and Friends. Lady Hatt is weird in the TV series for the fact that she reverse ages, if that makes any sense. She appears, her first appearance, she looks like she's in her mid-50s, like mid to late 50s, but then in the CGI series, for instance, she looks a lot younger. She looks a lot like she's in her 30s. But we won't dwell on that too much longer, but I just wanted to point that out. So she looks okay. She looks like she does in Series 1 in particular to me. Actually, no, she doesn't, because she doesn't have that hair, does she? That came in later. I think Series 5 or so she had that hair, so never mind, don't know what I'm talking about. But she has this outfit, which is just like a dress or what have you, or just a jacket and skirt, and she's got her brown shoes at the bottom. So she looks okay. She's in the same pose as the Fat Controller though. Turn around to the back, you know, nothing to talk about, no detail or what have you. She literally just the back of her outfit, so that's about that. We'll move her off to the side, and then we'll talk about the Workman. And I really like this figure in particular, to be honest with you. I can't recall any Workman from the TV series wearing this sort of outfit. It does look very familiar. Maybe a signalman wore this outfit, I can't remember, but you know, he's got like a white shirt and red overalls. Let's go ahead and bring him just a little bit closer so we can see his face. He doesn't look happy. He looks very disgruntled, more than anything, to be honest. But I suppose maybe the Workman on Sodor would be, I suppose, considering that that's all that they ever do, is just working constantly to repair engines and repair damage to the line or what have you, from all the incidents that the engines have. But he looks fine. He's probably my favourite of these figures, to be honest, just because he's a little bit more interesting for the fact that he's not just standing in a basic wooden pose, he's also got a little spanner. So that's pretty nice. We'll move him back over there, and then we'll bring in the Station Master. We'll bring him forward just to have a look at his face really quick. I really like this figure as well. He's almost perfect to me. He's got a very old expression, very grey hair and grey moustache and what have you. So his outfit in particular is really good. It's very reminiscent of... I called him a Station Master just because of an item that he came paired with, which I'll talk about in a minute. But you know, this can be used as a driver, a fireman, a guard, a porter, whatever. You know, that's what the staff of Sodor wear, is this blue coat and what have you, this blue outfit. But I don't know why they made him look so old. Probably just a contrast against the other ones, I can imagine. But he looks fine. I'm going to move him to the side for just a minute to show that I do actually have a second one of these. And I know that he's a lot brighter, but maybe I should have gone with this one. But I went with this one because this was my original one. I got this one not long ago, about 2 years ago, when I bought the Brio Wellsworth Station, which is an item we'll look at in the future. But it came with this figure, and he's almost identical. It's just that, you know, for sentimental reasons, I wanted just to show off this one, because this is one that I got later. So that does it for the Station Master slash driver slash fireman, whatever you want to call him. And that does it for this 4-pack of figures, which is his own separate item. But we will take a look at this figure, who doesn't come with those 4. He actually comes with another destination, which is the level crossing. So he's called, in the level crossing pack, he's called the Signalman, the one who actually controls the gates and what have you. But to me, he's always looked a lot more like Farmer Mccauley. Just that outfit and just the face and what have you, he's always reminded me more of Farmer Mccauley. So for the longest time, it took researching for this video to learn which figures actually came in the pack, to learn that he was packaged with the level crossing and was actually called a Signalman. So I always thought he was Farmer Mccauley. I thought he came with a different item. But he looks fine. Again, he's I like the fact he's slightly different from the others. He's a little bit more casual. So you could probably use this guy as a passenger if you wanted to, but then he'd be very lonely because none of the others look like passengers, unless you want to call Lady Hatt one, maybe. But yeah, there's not a whole lot. He's got like a pink vest or whatever, a white short sleeve shirt and a black tie and green trousers, and that's about it. Not a whole lot to talk about, to be honest, but as a figure he looks just fine. So the topic I wanted to touch upon in this is why I don't use these figures. Starting off my series, I did just for the sake of, you know, using Wooden Railway and what have you. I wanted to use them, but the main reason I don't use them, and I think it's the same for a lot of people, is scale. They have a very big issue with the scale of Wooden Railway engines, and I'm going to go ahead and bring in another helper. We had Percy in a earlier discussion. I'm going to go ahead and bring in the Brio battery-powered Thomas just to help with this. So straight away, you know, even before what I want to do, you can see standing on a platform, even though this isn't a Wooden Railway platform, this is you know, by Tomy, but straight away you can see just how much the Fat Controller towers over Thomas. And if I go ahead and bring the Fat Controller down as if he's talking to Thomas, you can see just how much he towers over him. He's, you know, gigantic compared to Thomas. And I can only assume that the reason why they made these figures as big as they are is for kids to have an easier time to grab them. and to hold them or whatever. But yeah, they definitely don't look good to me. They definitely don't look right. So that's why I and a lot of other people have started to use the Lego minifigures. And I started using these in about 2011, but what was weird was I would mix these figures with Lego figures. So if I just move Thomas back for just a minute, and we put this Lego figure next to the wooden figure, you can see how much of a difference there is. This wooden figure, you know, again, towers over the Lego figure. He looks like a giant compared to him. But yeah, I used to use, before I made a Fat Controller figure, I was still using this figure. And I had like Workman figures around, and it just looked awkward, just looked really weird. But anyway, bringing Thomas back in, you can see that the scale is not perfect. It's not quite right, but, you know, instead of looking down on Thomas, he's kind of eye level, which looks a lot better to me. And again, you know, I'm saying these are out of scale as if these are better. They are better, but they're not perfect. I mean, compared to, you know, Thomas's cab, you know, the Fat Controller still towers over him. Really, you know, using the power of force perspective, the Fat Controller should really be about that tall compared to Thomas, but he's not. But they are a lot better. They also, you know, posable. I can change the heads of these to have different expressions. I can move the arms so I can have him pointing at Thomas or what have you. Oops, or falling over. But yeah, I've just always preferred to use the Lego figures where possible, and also because I have a lot more of them. You know, I only have these 5 wooden figures, but I have, you know, hundreds and hundreds of these Lego figures. So that's the reason why I use them. But what I wanted to do was, just for a bit of fun, to do some sort of comparison, I wanted to show my Lego interpretations of these characters versus the wooden ones. So we'll raise them out just a little bit more, but you can see that's my interpretation of the Fat Controller in Lego form. The head and the hat are fine, but the tricky thing is the torso. Lego doesn't make a torso piece with a black jacket and a yellow waistcoat. They do actually make one that's with a purple waistcoat though, which is perfect for a Railway Series interpretation of the Fat Controller. But you can also see that I've given him black legs as opposed to the grey ones that the Fat Controller normally has. And I did put grey ones on my Lego version, but they just didn't look right. I much prefer, you know, the all black version. It kind of goes nicely with, you know, his hat and his jacket and whatever. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with my version, even though it's not perfect. But we'll leave it like that. So we'll go and bring in Lady Hat next. And I actually didn't have a Lady Hat figure for a very long time because she's quite tricky to make. But this is my interpretation, and I want to say this as well. I wasn't going for matching these Brio figures. I was going for their TV series appearances. So my interpretation of Lady Hat is using her outfit from Series 22's Rosie is Red, which is her most, one of her most recent appearances. I like it a lot more just because it's easier to make in Lego form compared to trying to find a figure with a dress like this, because that's a lot trickier to find. But this is my interpretation. So I've still got the short brown hair, like a blue coat with a scarf, pink gloves, and then brown boots. Very similar to how she appears in that episode, and that's my favourite of her outfits. Her other ones, like I said, she just wears like, you know, similar outfit to this, is blue with, except instead of brown it's blue. But I just don't have, you know, a figure that represents that very well, but I do have the pieces to make that. So again, she's not perfect, but that's my current interpretation of her. For the Workman, it's a little bit more interesting. Realistically, the version that I should be using is this. This is the closest I have to matching the Workman figure, being that he has the white shirt and the red overalls. But this is a fairly old torso. This is from like the 80s and 90s or so. And I only have 2 of those. So what I do is I use this, which is a lot more common. And it's a lot easier to come across that particular torso. So it's still like the white shirt and the overalls, except this time they're blue. But I've amassed a lot more of these, so I can have a lot more of them, you know, working at the works or working at the line side or what have you. So I just like that torso a lot. It's a fairly common one. And yeah, so we'll move him a lot away. And then we'll bring in the Station Master. And this is my interpretation. And this is my favourite one, personally, because I just think this torso is perfect, personally, for representing a Station Master or driver or fireman or what have you. It's a fairly old one. It's from, you know, again, 80s or 90s or so, in classic train sets mainly. They don't make this particular one anymore, except for they did make a set which was like a small black steam engine, like a display of one, to celebrate 40 years of I think the Lego train in general. And they did a reprint of this particular torso, and I tried to get loads more of them because I only have a couple of them, but they went out of stock before I could, so I was really upset about that. But nevertheless, I like this torso a lot, having like the white buttons and the collar and the pockets. So again, it doesn't look quite like this figure, but to represent the staff on Sodor, I think it looks pretty good. And I've also given the driver's cap as well. So that's the Workman. For Farmer Mccauley, he's probably the biggest deviation, because again, I didn't remotely try to copy that design. Instead, I went with this. This is the version that I came up with. It's actually just a green version of this one that we looked at just a minute ago. They made this in a couple different colors, being blue, green, red, and black. But I had that was my only green one, and I think it looks very farmer-like. The head, again, is not perfect, neither is the hat. Nothing about this figure, looking at him, is perfect for Farmer McCall. But I quite like it. It was just the best thing I had at the time of making it. Maybe one day I'll go ahead and update him and try and make him match either this figure or how he looks in the TV series a bit better. But for now, I think he's perfectly fine. So that's just that. I know that wasn't completely, you know, talking about the wooden figures there, but I just thought it'd be quite fun to do, just to look at my interpretations of these characters that I use in my series now. Because, like I said, you know, these are fine figures, but I just don't like them for scale and what have you. And also for posability and expression. But for those of you who do like these wooden figures, who do use them in your series, then kudos to you. I think a lot of people do great work with them. But me personally, and I know a lot of other people, like to use the Lego ones, which is perfectly fine. So that's my look at these figures that Brio made for their Thomas and Friends range. I think it's a good representation of the characters. There's absolutely nothing wrong with them, apart from, you know, the few little flaws I pointed out with the faces or what have you. Well, mainly just the Fat Controller's face is the only one I don't like. But that's that. So thank you all very much for watching this video, and thank you all very much for listening to me in the past couple of discussions. I hope you all really enjoyed them. Let me know down in the comments once again what you think of these figures, and what you think of the wooden figures in general, and also using Lego figures in Wooden Railway videos. And we will leave it there. So thank you all very much for watching this discussion and all the others, and I will see you all next time for another video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all then.